Hi everybody and welcome to a new episode of Minecraft Disneyland. This is the series in which I explore the Minecraft recreation of Disneyland on the Magical Dream server while talking about and exploring the history of the real attractions from the real Disneyland over in California. Today we're taking a look at an attraction that is, by all accounts, considered a classic Disneyland attraction. It is the Matterhorn Bobsleds. What's interesting is, even though it is a classic attraction, it didn't actually open with the opening of the park in 1955. In fact, it was 4 years later that the Matterhorn Bobsleds would actually open, and it opened on June 14th of 1959 as part of Disneyland's first major expansion since it opened. As the name implies, it's modeled after the Matterhorn, a famous mountain over in the Swiss Alps. And it's a world famous coaster, not just because it looks really cool and it's a classic Disney ride, but this is actually the first tubular steel continuous track roller coaster ever constructed in the world. Now, the history of the attraction is actually pretty cool. You see, back when they were building Disneyland originally for its 1955 opening, they were digging out all this dirt for Sleeping Beauty Castle's moat, and they piled it in this area between Fantasyland and Tomorrowland. The park eventually had to open, and so that area just sort of got called Holiday Hill, and then it later became known as Lookout Mountain, and they put benches on this hill and, pathways so that the guests can go up there and have picnics, and it was just sort of this space in between the zones. There was no real actual attraction there. And then later, it actually ended up getting known sort of as Disney's own version of like Make Out Point, where like teenagers would go to just make out, and Disney wasn't really a huge fan of that. So in 1956, he actually got this idea of doing a toboggan ride on a mountain with real snow, and he sort of wanted to use this space to do it. Now, Disneyland's chief of construction, Joe Fowler, who played a big part of both Disneyland and Disney World's construction, was pretty against this idea, mainly because maintaining a mountain of real snow in California was really going to be a hassle, both with keeping the snow there and dealing with all the water runoff. So that eventually got scrapped, but this idea of a toboggan ride on a mountain still remained. And the ride eventually evolved. See, originally the concept was a toboggan ride on a mountain, and that was about it. However, Disney had an extended vacation in Switzerland while they were making Third Man on the Mountain, and in this moment of inspiration, he saw the real Matterhorn, and he was really impressed with it, and he realized that this is the toboggan ride that he wanted. He wanted it to be based on the Matterhorn. And the story goes that he grabbed a postcard of the Matterhorn, the actual Matterhorn mountain, and he sent it to Vic Green, an Imagineer and architect, and he wrote on the postcard, "Vic, build this, Walt." And so build it they did. The Matterhorn in Disney is built to a 1/100th scale of the actual Matterhorn and stands at 147 feet tall compared to the actual Matterhorn's 14,700 feet. Like many attractions made to look tall, the Imagineers heavily used the trick of forced perspective to make things look smaller towards the top, to make it look like it's further away, and to give this added impression of height. And this technique was used even down to the trees on the Matterhorn, which were made smaller and smaller as you went up. Now, although it's a Disney classic, like many Disney attractions, it went through a number of changes, and some of them were pretty major. The first changes came in 1978, and arguably these were the biggest changes that happened to the attraction. You see, before 1978, the Matterhorn was largely an open space on the inside of the roller coaster. Think of something like Space Mountain, in which there is nothing really breaking up the space. However, in 1978, the Imagineers did just that. They started to break up this hollow space into all these icy caves and tunnels. That way it was a little bit more convincing when it came to the theming of the attraction. They also added the Abominable Snowman, which they actually named Harold. In 1994, the attraction went through some more changes. You see, prior to 94, the Skyway Attraction, which were these buckets that were sort of attached to a rope that would go across from one land to another, actually went through the Matterhorn itself. And initially, when it went through, similar to, I guess you could say, the TTA in Space Mountain, you got to actually see the attraction. You get to look down and see the Matterhorn roller coaster. However, in 1978, it was sort of broken up again, so you couldn't actually see it. And then in 1994, when the Skyway closed, they actually closed off those spaces that the Skyway went through partially. Some of it's still open, and you can kind of still see that hole today where the Skyway bucket went through. Unfortunately, that wasn't the only addition to the Matterhorn in 1994. Later on, there was a crate added to one of the cave areas labeled Wells Expedition, and it was added as a tribute to the late Frank Wells, who was president of Disney, and who was an avid mountain climber and skier who unfortunately passed away that year in a helicopter accident. But those weren't the final changes. In 2012, there was a nice refurbishment of the exterior look of the mountain. They redid a lot of the paint so it was more accurate to the real Matterhorn mountain, and they actually changed the way the snow worked on the surface. You see, it used to be just white paint. But what Imagineers did this time around was they mixed glass beads into the paint, so the snow actually reflected sunlight the way snow actually does in real life. And then finally, just a couple of cool facts about the Matterhorn. For one, the ride, if you've never ridden it, features these splashdown pools at the end where the ride just sort of, the vehicle splashes down into this pool of water. And it's a cool theme, but on top of that, it actually has two really functional purposes. One is that the water cools off the braking fins mounted on the underside of the bobsleds. And on top of that, hitting the water itself acts sort of as a brake to slow down the ride vehicle. So even though it's a cool little theming splash, so to speak, it actually is also there for engineering reasons. And then last, but certainly not least, there's the basketball court. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about it. These talks that there is a hidden basketball court at the top of the Matterhorn. Well, these rumors aren't actually rumors, it's true. For a number of years, there was a basketball half court at the top of the mountain where mountain climbers would actually play between climbs. And when I say mountain climbers, what I mean is throughout the day at Disneyland, you can sometimes see mountain climbers climbing this miniature Matterhorn. The court eventually moved a little bit as they installed all of this flight equipment for Tinkerbell, who was added for the 50th anniversary celebration, but there's still a basketball hoop there, and there are cast members who can hang out in this break room and they can play some basketball while they're waiting. Anyway, that's just a short look at a really great classic Disney attraction with some strong roots in Disney history. If you want to check it out in Minecraft, all you have to do is check out the Magical Dreams server. The information's in the description below. And if you want to learn more about Disney attractions, all you have to do is subscribe. I cover Disney World attractions, Disneyland attractions, other miscellaneous Disney history, and I even do a Disney Q&A. Anyway, thanks for watching. Whatever you're doing this week, make the most of it because it makes it that much better. And I hope to see you all next time for the next episode of Minecraft Disneyland. Bye, everybody.